Last night, the world of professional wrestling lost one of the most iconic figures in history. The world of professional wrestling lost the greatest manager in the history of the business. A man who inspired so many, not just with his managerial abilities, but also one of the greatest commentators of all time as well. Last night, we said goodbye to Raymond Lewis Heenan, best known by his ring name, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Hello, friends, and welcome to this edition of Ridiculously Raw. We want to thank you also very much for tuning in, as always. Not easy when we have to start a show like this, but we have to. Last night, around a little before 7:30 last night, WWE sent out a tweet announcing the passing of Bobby the Brain Heenan at the age of 72. He had organ issues, dealing with his ongoing battle with throat cancer. He passed away last night, survived by his wife Cynthia, his daughter Jessica, and a son-in-law John. And I don't know if he had. I know he had at least one grandchild. I don't know if he had any more after that, but I do know he had a grandchild as well. And but nonetheless, Bobby Heenan passed away last night at the age of 72, or 73 rather. And WWE paid their respects to him as well. The opening graphic on Monday Night Raw, and also they showed off several tweets by several wrestling personalities such as Vince McMahon, Triple H, Ric Flair, just to name a few. And you know, it's not often we talk about close to home deaths on this show, but this one definitely hits close to home for me because I was a huge like all of us where we were huge fans of Bobby the Brain Heenan, and for me, I was more of a fan of his commentary. And to make this even worse, good old MF Michael Fletcher not joining us tonight. Not sure the reasoning, but he messaged me a little while ago saying that he was out of the show tonight. But he will be back tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, and he will pay his respects to Bobby the Brain Heenan, and maybe we can pick it up from there. But nonetheless, um, before we before we get into our our tribute to him, I think I think everybody knows that based on all this, we will be dedicating tonight's edition of Ridiculously Raw as well as tomorrow night's edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk to the memory of Bobby the Brain Heenan. And this is it, it was basically his time, and his daughter even said it was his time because he's had so many health issues over the years, and some of the pictures that we had seen of him were just hard to look at. You see him there, he looks great. Then we've seen all these photos over the years where he just looked terrible, and it broke my heart to see that, and I'm sure it broke everybody's heart as well. All the all the wonderful fans of this wonderful man, and but nonetheless, you know what we do when we have a passing. We talk about his life. He was born on November the 1st of 19. He was born on November 1st, 1944, in Chicago, Illinois, and he started as a wrestler with the World Wrestling Association. He was known as Pretty Boy Bobby Heenan, and he was always a fan of wrestling growing up in Chicago and Indianapolis. And he started as they humbled him at the start, carrying bags and jackets for the wrestlers and selling refreshments at the events. He dropped out of school in the 8th grade to support his mother and grandmother. His first break in the wrestling business was as a heel manager and wrestler in 1965 when he was known as Pretty Boy Bobby Heenan. And then he went on to manage some of the most successful wrestlers in the world, creating the Heenan family, a stable that existed in several different incarnations in wrestling promotions for over 20 years. And he started in the WWA, initially managed Angelo Poffo, who was best known as the father of Macho Man Randy Savage and Leapin' Lanny Poffo, also known as the Genius, later on. And then, of course, he went to the AWA. He was in the WWA, the World Wrestling Association, from 1967 to 1974. And then he went to the AWA from 1974 to 1984. And while he was there, he managed Nick Bockwinkel and Ray the Crippler Stevens, AWA World Tag Team Championship, and the first Heenan family, Nick Bockwinkel. You also have Ray the Crippler Stevens, Bobby Duncombe Sr., and Blackjack Lanza. And, of course, also with Bobby Heenan in his corner, Nick Bockwinkel went on to win the AWA World Heavyweight Championship on several occasions. And he also had Nick Bockwinkel and went up against Hulk Hogan when Hulk Hogan was there. And he also managed Ken Patera down there. But his most what he's most known for was his time in the World Wrestling Federation. Debuted in 1984, Vince McMahon lured Heenan away from the AWA to manage another one of my personal favorites, Jesse the Body Ventura. And while most of the AWA talent left for WWF during this time without giving proper notice, and then Ventura was unable to wrestle, so Heenan managed Big John Studd in his feud against Andre the Giant, leading into WrestleMania 1, the infamous $15,000 body slam match. And then later on, he would reform the Heenan family, which over the years in the WWF would include Big John Studd, Ken Patera, Playboy Buddy Rose, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, High Chief Stevie Aoki, the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, Ravishing Rick Rude, the King Harley Race, the Islanders, Haku and Tama, Hercules, the Barbarian, Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, the Red Rooster, and the Brooklyn Brawler, just to name a few. He managed 2 WrestleMania challengers in the main event in back-to-back WrestleManias. WrestleMania 2 was the manager of King Kong Bundy when he challenged Hulk Hogan for the World Wrestling Federation title inside the steel cage. And then, of course, the next year, which in many people's eyes was the real turning point and what made this business what it is today, WrestleMania 3, when he was the manager of Andre the Giant, going against Hulk Hogan for the title. And Hogan came out on top both times. But yes, he got a lot of flack from announcers, and mostly Gorilla Monsoon, for never being a manager of a champion. And then in 1989, he had a big year in 1989. WrestleMania 5, he led Ravishing Rick Rude to the Intercontinental Championship when he defeated the Ultimate Warrior, which Heenan helped Rude win. And then towards the end of 1989, twice in 1989, he led 2 different teams to the WWF Tag Team Championship, the Brainbusters, when they beat Demolition on a taped edition of Saturday Night's Main Event in the summer of '89, near my neck of the woods in Worcester, Massachusetts. And then near the end of '89, another team, the Colossal Connection, Andre the Giant and Haku, they knocked off Demolition and won the Tag Team Championship, but Demolition would regain the titles both times, which led to that angle at WrestleMania 6 when Andre the Giant turned on Bobby Heenan because Heenan blamed Andre for the loss, and one of the most iconic moments in history. And then he would later, he would also wrestle sporadically in his run. His most notable victory, of course, coming at WrestleMania 4, when he and the Islanders defeated the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware. he scored the winning fall on Coco, but then the following year didn't go so well. He got squashed in 30 seconds by the Red Rooster at WrestleMania 5. And he retired from managing in 1991 to become a full-time broadcast journalist, quote unquote. And then he spent several weeks talking up the Nature Boy Ric Flair when Ric Flair came to the World Wrestling Federation after Mr. Perfect turned on Bobby Heenan. And then he would manage the then narcissist Lex Luger in early '93. You know, Royal Rumble. We remember that infamous segment during the '93 Royal Rumble when Lex Luger did the posing, and Bobby Heenan was, you know, going crazy over that. But then it was in 1986 when Vince McMahon took full advantage of Bobby Heenan's microphone and comedic skills, and he became a color commentator. He replaced Jesse the Body Ventura on Primetime Wrestling and All American Wrestling, teaming him up with his real life best friend, Gorilla Monsoon. And of course, those two also worked on All Star Wrestling and also worked on Wrestling Challenge, numerous pay per views. And he began to call himself a quote unquote broadcast journalist, openly rooting for heels while they cheated or did something underhanded. And of course, he referred to the fans of the babyface wrestlers as humanoids, and babyface wrestlers, especially jobbers, as ham and eggers. And another classic moment began when between Heenan and Monsoon occurred repeatedly when Heenan went on a long rant supporting the heel wrestlers until Gorilla Monsoon would say either "Will you stop? Give me a break," or sarcastic "Please," or of course he would also say "Will you be serious?" And then he had neck issues and decided to leave the WWF at the end of '93, and of course that very funny moment on Monday Night Raw, December the 6th of 1983, and '93 rather, in White Plains, New York, when Gorilla Monsoon literally threw Heenan out. But then after the moment, I had heard that off the air. I guess they went back to a hotel room and they had a very emotional moment following that. And then of course Heenan went to WCW in 1994. You know, when he worked with Tony Schiavone, and of course, but he also worked on WCW Monday Nitro. You know, when that show first started, you know, the Monday Night War, he worked with Eric Bischoff and former NFL defensive lineman Steve Mongo McMichael, and there was a moment on Great American Bash in '96 when Bobby Heenan managed Ric Flair and Arn Anderson in a tag team match against Steve Mongo McMichael and Kevin Green. And of course, Steve McMichael heel turned and allowed Flair and Anderson to win the match. And that of course led to McMichael replacing Brian Pillman in the Four Horsemen. And of course, he also would work with Mark Madden, also worked with Mike Tenay and Scott Hudson. And that ended right around 2000. And then, of course, he came back to the WWE at WrestleMania 17 when he worked alongside Mean Gene Okerlund when they called the Gimmick Battle Royal. And then, of course, 2004 was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame and gave what many people consider to this day the greatest speech in the history of the WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And I certainly concur with that. You can't help but get choked up every time near the end of that speech when he would say, "I wish Monsoon was here." Oh, if that doesn't get you, I don't know what does. And then one of the last things he did, you know, he worked in TNA. You know, he worked with the Chicago White Sox, AJ Pierzynski and Dale Torborg when they presented AJ Styles, Chris Sabin, and Sanjay Dutt with autographed gifts from the team, you know, after the White Sox won the World Series in 2005. That led to an angle with the Diamonds in the Rough and the Turning Point pay-per-view, and Bobby Heenan sat in on commentary for that match with Mike Tenay and Don West. And he was honored by the Pro Wrestling Report at the annual Blizzard Brawl event on December the 5th of 2009 in Milwaukee, as he was given their Lifetime Achievement Award. And in addition to this, The mayor of Milwaukee, Tom Barrett, declared December 5, 2009 to be Bobby Heenan Day. Awesome. And he wrote 2 books, Bobby the Brain Wrestling's Bad Boy Tells All in 2002, and then 2004, Chair Shots and Other Obstacles, Winning Life's Wrestling Matches, which features an introduction / forward by Ric Flair. And then in 2004, he joined Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko in providing commentary for the video game Showdown: Legends of Wrestling. And after his Hall of Fame induction, he provided comments for use in WWE documentary releases. And then in December of 2010, they released a retrospective 2-disc DVD on Heenan's career. And I'm proud to say I have that in my collection. I've seen it. Very well done. He was married to Cynthia Jean Parrott from June 21st, 1978, up until his death. They had a daughter, Jessica, and he also had 2 grandchildren. And although on screen they were often at odds, Heenan was actually very close with Gorilla Monsoon. And he was also close friends with Mean Gene Okerlund, and various other people involved with the business, including good old JR Jim Ross, Hulk Hogan, and the $1 Million Man Teddy DiBiase, noted their close friendships with Heenan on their Twitter accounts after he passed away. And, he was diagnosed with throat cancer in January of 2002, and, had a lot of issues with that. Could hardly communicate. Also had reconstructive surgery on his jaw in December of 2007. Was in a coma. And then in April 2014, while in Las Vegas, he fell out of bed and broke a shoulder. And then last May, fell again and broke a hip. And then passed away last night while surrounded by his family in his home in Largo, Florida. He managed so many wrestlers, but I pretty much talked about the most notable wrestlers, as part of the Heenan family. But there were others that he managed. He also managed the Missing Link. He also managed the Natural Butch Reed, Colt Cabana, Jimmy Jacobs, Nigel McGuinness, as you all know, color commentator on NXT and 205 Live, CM Punk. Yes, he actually did manage CM Punk. Baron Von Raschke, the Cattering Lad, Dick Warren, John Jumbo Bailey, Killer Carl Cox, and the Masked Superstar. And he also managed, of course, Bockwinkel and Stevens, the Blackjacks, the Brainbusters, Colossal Connection, the Islanders, Guy Mitchell and Joe Tommaso, the Assassins, and the Valiant Brothers. And he was awarded the Iron Mike Mazurki Award in 2004 as part of the Cauliflower Alley Club, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Manager of the Year in 1972, 76, 89, and 91. Also was the recipient of the Stanley Weston Award in 2012, 2009 Lifetime Achievement Award for the Pro Wrestling Report, inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum in 2006, inducted into the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2010, inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2004, and inducted into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame in 96, and also was awarded Best Color Commentator by the Wrestling Observer Newsletter 3 years in a row from 1992, 93, and 94. Yeah, so, and wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer and from the Wrestling Observer and Wade Keller with the PW Torch noted that Heenan is generally considered to be the greatest pro wrestling manager of all time. Absolutely. So, when it comes to managerial, so many great managerial moments. Saturday night's main event. He managed the Mighty Hercules in a title match against Hulk Hogan. I remember that very well. I also remember when he led the Brainbusters to the Tag Team Championship against Demolition. 2 out of 3 falls match. Very good match. 89 was his breakout year, when he led 2 different tag teams, Brainbusters and the Colossal Connection to the tag team titles, and of course, ravishing Rick Rude to the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 5 before losing it back to the Warrior at the 89 SummerSlam. But like I said, as great as he was as a manager, I think he was even better as a commentator. And now I'm going to pull a Bobby Heenan here, and when I say I wish MF was here because I mean, him and Gorilla Monsoon, they inspired the commentary that MF and I do so much. I mean, they inspired us more than anybody. I mean, no disrespect to Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura, they also inspired us, and of course Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler also inspired us. But no commentary duo inspired MF and I more than Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And they had so many great moments. Primetime wrestling when they hosted together for a good 5 or 6 years. When Heenan replaced Jesse the Body Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon replaced Jack Reynolds when that show first started on New Year's Day 1985 and went up until right around New Year's Day 93. And then that's when, of course, Monday Night Raw started. Don't worry, we're going to get to our Raw review in a little bit, but we just want to briefly pay our respects to Bobby the Brain Heenan. And like I said, the commentary was what did it. I mean, some standout events. SummerSlam 91, he was epic on that. WrestleMania 7, he was epic on that. Royal Rumble 92. Royal Rumble 92, especially during the Royal Rumble match when Ric Flair entered the Royal Rumble at number 3 when he was freaking out because he drew number 3 and, he was, you got to watch that. You got to watch that match for yourself. I mean, he was epic during that. But I think the personal best Gorilla and Bobby job was WrestleMania 8. I mean, some wonderful moments that came out of that. I mean, the most notable moments from WrestleMania 8 really stood out. What really stood out to me was during the Bret Hart Roddy Piper match when Gorilla was referring to Roddy Piper's Golden Gloves amateur boxing ability. Bobby Heenan called that, yeah, that's amateur punk stuff. And Gorilla's like, amateur punk stuff? And Bobby's like, you don't get paid for that, do you? And he's like, no, amateur punk stuff. And Gorilla's like, oh, please. Oh, that was epic. And then another funny moment, of course, during the 8-man tag team match. Sergeant Slaughter, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Big Boss Man, and Virgil against the Nasty Boys, the Mountie, and the Repo Man. I also remember he had two funny moments during that match. They promoted the Family Feud because Ray Combs, who was the host of Family Feud at the time, was the guest ring announcer. And when Bobby Heenan promoted that he was going to be on the Family Feud with several other superstars against the superstars of the World Bodybuilding Federation, I'll never forget it. When Bobby Heenan went on to say during that, I'm going to win all the money. And you're like, oh boy. MF and I had so much fun with that for so many years. And then what really did it was when he announced Shawn Michaels has left the building and Gorilla just yelled out, who cares? Who cares if Shawn Michaels left the building? And then he went on to say, Shawn Michaels has left the building, and Gorilla just let out a big old, will you stop? Oh, just epic. Just absolutely epic. And then, of course, when he was gushing over Ric Flair prior to his WWF title match against Macho Man Randy Savage, which, let's face it, stole the show that night, and damn near 5-star classic. I mean, that's a match you got to check out and see because that was a damn good match. One of my personal favorite matches of all time. It was two of my all-time favorites. Randy Savage and Ric Flair went at it, and one of the great title matches ever. Gushing over Ric Flair, Gorilla had another big old "Will you stop?" It was just, oh man. And then Royal Rumble '93 when he was gushing over Lex Luger as the narcissist, funny. And there was an episode of Primetime Wrestling in '92. When they had that roundtable format. Vince McMahon was there, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Hillbilly Jim, Mr. Perfect. And you remember the night when Mr. Perfect turned on Bobby Heenan to team up with Randy Macho Man Savage at the Survivor Series in '92. When Mr. Perfect turned on him, I'll never forget it when Bobby Heenan was begging Mr. Perfect to forgive him, and then Mr. Perfect called him a terrible excuse of a man, and then poured water all over him, and the other guys were just going nuts, and it was so many great moments. And when it comes to WCW, he had some funny moments in WCW too, but one moment in WCW really stood out to me. Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff was known as Pretty Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and they had this very funny theme song with high pitched, like opera style vocalists, and he was like, "Listen closely," and when he was referring to the female high vocal, I'll never forget. You know what he said? You know what he said on that? He said, "If you listen closely, you know who that is? That's Gene Okerlund sitting on a block of ice." God Almighty, that was so hilarious. I You got to check out the wiki quote section, wiki quote, the website with great quotes. They have some legendary quotes from Bobby Heenan, and another one from WCW revolved around the Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills. And he said, "Hey Schiavone, let's bet on the Super Bowl. You take the Bills, I'll take the Cowboys, and whoever wins gets $50." And Schiavone's like, "Super Bowl was a month ago." He's like, "Who won?" "The Cowboys." And he's like, "You owe me $50." Oh goodness, I could go on and on and on, but I think I might save a little more of this for tomorrow night because I was informed that MF, who's not with us tonight, um, we will do this again tomorrow night on the Cerebral Smack Talk, and maybe then we can share some more funny memories. But those were the ones that stood out to me. A very close to home death for me, no doubt about it. And Bobby Heenan is certainly going to be missed. And on behalf of all of us here at the Wrestling Forum, Ridiculously Raw, Cerebral Smack Talk, what have you, we would like to send out our thoughts and our prayers and our condolences to the family, friends, and numerous colleagues of Bobby the Brain Heenan, and he is surely going to be missed. So with that said, Didi Whitson, come on in. We got the Twisted Angel Didi Whitson with us. First lady of the Wrestling Forum. Our other panelist, Michael Bullock, will be a little late coming in. We'll catch him up on what he missed when he comes in. So, Didi, your thoughts and your favorite memories of Bobby the Brain Heenan as we get ready to go down our Raw review.
It's hard to talk about Bobby, being already gone. Like I told Anthony earlier today, this is real emotional. Hard to talk about. He was known for cutting off people. Interview with Mean Gene, they showed tonight, clips of it tonight. He was cutting Mean Gene off. He would cut Gorilla off. That talk show where Bobby's face went into the cake. I mean, just classic comedy that you wouldn't even think would be funny at first, and he just would come out with these things that would just have you rolling. I also told Anthony earlier tonight that I had seen a video of him and Mean Gene playing golf, and if you haven't seen that segment, either look it up on YouTube or look it up on the network and try to find it, because it's hilarious watching him try to play golf, and the ridiculous outfit and the ridiculous things he uses to try to play golf with. It's hilarious. I got into WWE when I was 13 because of my sister was watching it, and one of the days that I had stayed over at her house, and she's 19 years older than me. She had it on. I kind of got into it. Then, watching Hogan out there and Macho Man and Andre the Giant and all them. But yeah, Heenan has had such a, how do I want to word this? I guess I could say classic career, because he's had his moments in the ring. He's had his moments managing. He's had his moments announcing. For both WWE and TNA, and I mean, just some of the things that he would just come off with, either to Gorilla or to Mean Gene. I mean, it was just hilarious. Even for a while there, he did some color commentary with even Vince McMahon when Vince was on commentary for a while, and you could hear Vince saying, "Will you stop it?" And even Gorilla had said that several times. "Will you stop it?" Because he just would get off on a tangent and be doing something half the time not even related to what was going on. But the hardest thing to see was when he came back after having the cancer and seeing him so thin, seeing the man that just was full of life and everything, just the shell. And seeing that reminds me of my dad, because my dad was the same way, except he didn't die of cancer. He died of Parkinson's, but he went from a 300-pound, 6'4" man to a 6'4" man who was 175 pounds. And seeing Bobby deteriorate like that, just it touches home. But even more so because I grew up watching him for over 31 years, and he's definitely missed. Family's definitely in thoughts and prayers, and if there's a wrestling ring in the sky, we know he's up there, either playing manager or commentating with Gorilla. So it's going to be a sad day here, but it is what it is. He's in a better place now. He's not hurting anymore. He's not suffering anymore, and that's what I think about. So I'm going to toss it back before I lose it.
Yes, I know it is very hard. This is definitely close to home, and there are actually a couple of more moments that I just remembered that I want to share real quick before we get to our Raw review, and that is 1988 WrestleFest at the old Milwaukee County Stadium in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He lost a match to the Ultimate Warrior, and he was forced to dress up in a weasel suit. And oh boy, the hissy fit he threw after that.
I actually remember that.
Yes, that was. I found I actually found it on YouTube. Somebody actually uploaded the entire event, including that bout. So yeah, and also I also remember another one of those primetime wrestling episodes when they converted to that roundtable format. And this was actually back when Gorilla was on the show. Him and Gorilla were on the show with Vince McMahon, Slick. Remember the Reverend Slick when he turned babyface after he was a heel manager all those years? Mr. Perfect. They talked about Slick, performing, I guess, services for the dearly departed, and Bobby Heenan was like, "How hard is it to get the gold out of their teeth?" Like, "Will you stop it?" Like, what? And
yep.
And Vince McMahon had that look on his face, like, "How dare you?" Oh, priceless Vince McMahon, that look. And he was like, "Will you stop what?" And one other roundtable format, and this was when Lord Alfred Hayes was on the show, another late great who we miss very dearly, Lord Alfred. And Lord Alfred was ranting about Bobby Heenan being a liar and all this good stuff, and and then Heenan said to Lord Alfred, "You're a good-looking guy." And then he said, "Whoop, lied again." Oh, And then Lord Alfred just had this. He had the look of more like "I'm gonna kill you" instead of "How dare you." If you saw Lord Alfred's face, I mean, oh,
Do
just
you do you remember the one that they did live? I think it was in Las Vegas where Heenan came in riding on one of those animals.
WrestleMania 9. Yes, and he was forced to ride backwards on the camel. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes,
Yeah, that was hilarious because he looked like he was terrified. He looks like he was going to fall, and here he is. He's in one of those
yeah,
ancient garbs, and oh, it was hilarious.
the toga. Yeah, the toga. Yes.
But I think what's funnier than seeing Heenan in the toga was seeing Jr. in the toga.
Yes, Jim Ross. Yeah, that was Jim Ross's first night in
Yep,
the
it was.
WWF. JR's debut, and yeah, and Heenan was freaking out about the camera. It was like you could clearly hear him say, "Come on, stop this camera." Yeah,
Hmm.
and Jim then he was venting and freaking out to Jim Ross, and yeah, that was another epic moment indeed, and then one other one, SummerSlam 1993. He was on commentary with Vince McMahon, and I'll never forget it. They were talking about Lex Luger. You know, Lex Luger was, when he became the All-American guy, the Lex Express, and the whole 9 yards. And they had Joe Fowler interviewing the bus driver, his name was Hank Carter, and Bobby Heenan was like, "How did they get the former president to drive the bus?" And Vince McMahon was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "That's Jimmy Carter, right?" He's like, "No, Hank Carter." Oh, that's epic. How did he get the former president to drive the bus? And yeah, and then one more quick one. That round table primetime wrestling format, I'll never forget it. Him and Gorilla Monsoon were playing the Super Nintendo video game Super WrestleMania. And to preview, I guess you could say it served as a preview of the other WrestleMania main event from WrestleMania 8 when Hulk Hogan went up against Sid Justice. Bobby Heenan played as Sid Justice and Gorilla Monsoon played as Hulk Hogan. And Gorilla won. And when the 3 count went down, Gorilla was like, "Yeah, I got it." And Bobby just freaked out. It was just unbelievable. So we could go on and on.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Fair enough.
because you could go back to when Raw was the two they split it as two separate shows, so they had the little stage segment. I mean, there was like a little mini ring in there, and you had a live studio audience, and Heenan would get in the ring on that and stuff like that. So yeah,
I'm sure,
just
I'm sure you see it right here. This is the Bobby Heenan DVD. This is from my personal collection.
yep.
Definitely one that I cherish very much. I watched it. I don't remember when I watched it, but I remember watching it, sitting down to watch it one night, and you know, a lot of those memories that I just talked about are on there. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, to this set, it's a great set, and but the one that really did it for me was the Hall of Fame speech. That Hall of Fame speech when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2004, when he simply closed by saying, "I wish Monsoon was here."
Hmm.
That's basically like me saying, "I wish MF was here,"
And we
because
do.
you know how close MF and I are. MF is the Gorilla Monsoon to my Bobby Heenan / Jesse Ventura after all. So yeah, so those two really did it for us, and we'll definitely have more on this tomorrow night on the Match Talk as MF wants to pick it up tomorrow night so we can share his thoughts, and maybe we'll do some more on that. So we could go all night going into all this, but for right now, let's get into the real reason we do this show, and that's of course Monday Night Raw. Go home show for No Mercy. Monday Night Raw was live at the Shark Tank in San Jose, California, the home of the San Jose Sharks, the SAP Center. And it started with Raw general manager Kurt Angle in the ring. And Kurt Angle was talking about the double main event for No Mercy, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship. And then The Miz and The Miz Taraj interrupted, of course, conspicuous by her absence, Maryse. Of course, Marie, as you know, if you saw the show last week, Maryse is pregnant. So I don't think we're going to be seeing her around anytime soon. I guess they started her maternity leave, I guess. So, but anyways, they were there, and Miz and Angle had a back and forth segment, and and then Jason Jordan showed up, and then Jason Jordan basically went after the Miz Taraj, and well, this was a solid segment. I mean, it wasn't the best, but Angle doing the classic, authority figure, setting up shop, if you will, setting up the agenda for the show tonight, and that was fine. And let me see. I mean, it was a solid opening segment to set up the main event, which was the number one contenders match. It was initially supposed to be a 4-way with Jason Jordan, Elias, and the Hardys, and but Jason Jordan requested his father add Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel to it. So, anyways, it was a solid opening segment to set up the number one contenders match for later tonight. Miz was really good as usual. Yes, indeed he was. He was very good as always. So that's really all I can say on that. It was a solid segment to set up that 6-pack challenge, which ended up being the main event tonight, and we'll get into that shortly. So nothing more to say on that. So Didi Whitson, let's get your thoughts on the opening segment.
Yeah, it was a pretty good segment. Kevin and I were looking on Twitter during Raw, or was it Tumblr? I can't remember. One of them, someone had posted on there about that it was sad that Maryse had to relinquish her Intercontinental title to her husband, and in a way, they kind of have a point, because we've brought this up several times before that seems like the only way Miz is getting away with hanging on to the title is to have somebody out there with him that will either distract the ref or do some sort of damage on the outside, or come in when the ref isn't paying attention or something and do damage, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it gets old, but at the same time, it's storyline, and it's we've been sitting here talking about all the history of Heenan. Well, these kind of storylines is the history of WWE, and you're not going to get away from it, unfortunately, as much as we get sick and tired of it. But it was still a very strong segment. Miz trying to say how good Bo and Curtis was, and how bad of a father Kurt was for running off on his child, and that I'm not going to leave my child. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Well, in Kurt's defense on that, if you don't know that you have a child expected, there's no way you can be a father. And, that's something that Miz is kind of leaving out of the picture, because when they mentioned Jordan as the illegitimate child, Kurt had said that he had just found out. So there was no way he could have, stepped into that role. So that would be my defense on Kurt Angle's part. But yeah, it was a good segment and a great way to open Raw. One of the very few highlights that I saw for the show. So I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah. Tonight's Raw was not the best show, but there were some good matches. There were 2 really good matches, and a couple of good segments. But other segments and matches, like what's coming up next here. I don't know if Didi's going to want to get into this, but I'll address it anyway. It was the match with the Raw Women's Champion Alexa Bliss squaring off against Nia Jax, and Nia Jax wins the match 6 minutes and 40 seconds to 7 minutes. Didi, I don't know if you want to get into this or.
I'll get into it a little. I'll get into it a little bit because if I get into it too much, I will get into a brief rant, and I'm going to try not to do that as much as possible. I think tonight kind of proves one of the reasons why I don't like hearing Miss Bliss called a goddess, because tonight she pretty much proved that she's more of a chicken than she is worthy of being the top dog, because all she wanted to do was escape the ring and run to the back and, you know, do these same tactics that she's done in the past, or she's hung on to this title. You know, and we all knew that the only reason she befriended Nia Jax was so that this kind of thing would not happen, where she would not have to face her and go through the pain that she would be put through facing Nia Jax. And, you know, as much as, you know, I'm one of the ones I hate for anybody to interfere, this is one match where I was thankful that Sasha did come out, because it put Little Miss Bliss in her place. But at the end, you know, even though she worked together with the returning Bayley and Sasha to take out Nia, she tried to switch sides and say, hey, I'm friends with these two now, and it didn't work. And it, you know, you pretty much got shown that Little Miss Bliss is fully on her own. There is no one that is her friends. And as much as she says, you know, all these things these people do to her doesn't hurt her, her actions don't prove that. And yeah, she is a dynamite wrestler when she wrestles the right way and when there's no interference, but she was definitely outsized in this, definitely outmuscled, and you pretty much knew she was not going to win when she first walked in, especially the backstage segment where you could see all the fear on her face and her trying to hide it. So I'm not going to call it a dud. I am going to give it like a 1.5 stars, just because mainly, you know, they're trying to build a storyline here between Nia and Alexa, and the fact that this did end up reintroducing Bayley, and later in the show we do find out that Bayley is thrown into that fatal 4-way, turning it into a fatal 5-way at the pay-per-view. So that's one of the reasons why I'll at least give it that much. But I'm going to have to cut it off there, or I'm going to get into ranting more on Bliss. So, Florio, I'm tossing it back to you.
Yeah, it's no secret that you hate when Alexa Bliss is mentioned as the, you know, we'll call it the G word in this case. But that's more Corey Graves, you know, being the best heel commentator in wrestling today. I mean, he's got a little bit of Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura in him, but nonetheless, I agree with the rating, 1.5 stars. I mean, there wasn't much there due to the commercial break, but it was also all about making Nia Jax look like a legit threat. And as far as the Bayley thing goes, I mean, Bayley returning was a nice surprise. I mean, and it was wise to have her come back in her hometown to guarantee a strong reaction. So I'll give it that. But MF, Michael Fletcher, posted on his Facebook, he was not thrilled that WWE added Bayley to the match Sunday at No Mercy, which is now a fatal 5-way. So Bayley gets another shot at the Raw Women's Championship, and I know MF was very upset about that. He posted on his Facebook page is saying, "How is that fair?" And well, with all due respect, I mean, did was supposed to have a shot at the title originally at SummerSlam. She was supposed to be going up against Alexa Bliss, and because she won a contenders match, I believe, against Sasha Banks, and but nonetheless, it's Bayley who gets added to the match. It's now a 5-way. No Mercy when Alexa Bliss defends the Raw Women's Championship against Nia Jax, Emma, Sasha Banks, and the returning Bayley. So I'll try to find that post from MF. But MF was very heated about Bayley being added to the match, and I can understand that. I mean, I know there were some other people commented on his post and actually agreed with him on that, and what it is, and like it or not, Bayley is in, and just bear with me, and as I try to find that post by MF. He said, MF said, and I quote, "All right, how is this freaking fair? Bayley just came back tonight, and now she gets a title shot at the Raw Women's title." And then his friend said, "I don't like it either. Thought title shots were earned. Everyone else had to work for their shot at the Raw Women's title. She get it free." Well, I could certainly understand why some people would be upset about it, but hey, you had a feeling. I had a feeling they were going to add her. I'll be honest. So, that's his match, and it will be that 5-way match Sunday night at No Mercy. So, we'll see what happens. Even though I'm hearing that the plan right now is for Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss to be feuding over the Raw Women's Championship. We'll see how that goes in due time. We got Michael Bullock here. Michael Bullock has just joined us. You didn't miss much, Bullock. We took quite a bit of time, paying our respects to Bobby the Brain Heenan, and so Michael Bullock, come on in, Phenom. Michael Bullock, he's just joined us. Bullock, Dee and I, we talked about, we paid our respects and shared our favorite memories of Bobby the Brain Heenan. So, and MF is going to do it tomorrow night on Cerebral Smack Talk. You notice that MF's not with us. Bullock, your thoughts and your favorite memories of Bobby the Brain Heenan as we start with you.
Yeah, it's certainly a sad day for the world of professional wrestling that we lost one of the greatest managers and I'll even also say one of the greatest entertainers in the history of this great company, Bobby Heenan, and he managed a lot of great wrestlers. I mean, Ravishing Rick Rude, the Brain Busters, Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy, Mr. Perfect, and was also associated with definitely one of the all-time greats in the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. And, of course, also made the jump to WCW. And, I mean, a lot of great memories with the two. But to me, I think the one that really stands out to me, Florio, is his work with Gorilla Monsoon. I mean, it's sort of like those two were made to be together. I mean, I always was entertained when those two would always go at it. And when Bobby the Brain Heenan would make a silly comment, and then Gorilla Monsoon would be like, "Will you stop?" I mean, that was just, I mean, I get a kick out of that every single time when I see that. I mean, whether it's via pay-per-view or when they work together on Wrestling Challenge. And of course, they also work together on Primetime Wrestling. And of course, Another one that really stands out from Primetime Wrestling. And I don't know if you remember this, Wario. I think it was when Paul Bearer and The Undertaker were actually in the studio on Primetime Wrestling, and Bobby Heenan was basically scared stiff.
Oh yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, I mean, he kept trying to beg Paul Bearer not to bring The Undertaker out. When he turned around, he was just shaking in his boots, and I mean, that was definitely. And another one that really got a kick out was when he tried to introduce the real world champion to Hulk Hogan, and he basically slammed the door right in his face. And yeah, so. And then the one real touching moment was the moment when we heard the passing of Gorilla Monsoon, and it was on Monday Nitro when Bobby Heenan paid tribute to his friend Gorilla Monsoon, and then of course it all culminated with him getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2004. And yeah, so this is definitely a sad day for professional wrestling. And but the other another funny thing is when the fans were chanting "Weasel, Weasel, Weasel." Yeah, so sad day, and we love you, Bobby Heenan, and thank you for the memories, thank you for the inspiration, and thank you to Bobby the Brain Heenan. We love you, Bobby. Godspeed, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, indeed, and we'll continue. We're going to continue our Bobby Heenan tribute tomorrow night on the Cerebral Smack Talk. Good old MF, the host of the show, he's not with us tonight. I'm guessing it's because of work commitments or something. He promised that he would share his thoughts, and we'll definitely pick up on it again tomorrow night with him. So, but anywho, let's get into our review of Monday Night Raw, the go-home show for No Mercy. Started it off with an in-ring segment, Kurt Angle interrupted by The Miz and The Miztourage, and it set up a huge main event, six-pack challenge. The Hardy Boys, Elias, Jason Jordan, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel. Winner will face The Miz for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship in No Mercy. So, Bullock, your thoughts on that opening segment?
Yeah, I thought it was a good segment. Obviously, of course, Kurt Angle came out to start it off, and then basically The Miz came out and saying, "Oh, why isn't the Intercontinental Champion being able to defend his title at No Mercy?" And he says, "You know what? I'm going to. It's a good thing you did ask, because tonight you're going to be in a. I mean, we're going to find out who the number one contender is for the Intercontinental Championship in a six-pack challenge. It's Jason Jordan, Elias, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, and who else was in there?
It's the Hardys, it's Jason Jordan, it's Elias, it's Axel, and it's Dallas.
Oh yeah. So now we're gonna find out who's gonna be taking on the Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, at No Mercy. So so to me, I think this was a great segment to start off this edition, and I can't wait to find out who's going to be going on to face the Miz at No Mercy. So nothing else to say except let's move on to the first match.
And that was Alexa Bliss against Nia Jax, and Nia Jax won it in 6 minutes and 40 seconds to 7 minutes. Plus, we had a surprise. Bayley's back. What do you think of that?
Yeah, as far as the match goes, I'm going to give it about, excuse me, I'm going to give it about 1.5 stars as my rating on the match. I mean, it was fine for what it was, and obviously a nice way for Nia Jax to get some momentum going into this match. And yep, we get the return of Bayley, and of course now she gets added to the Raw Women's title match and making it a fatal 5-way. And you did mention something about Fletch being upset that Bayley got added, right, Florio?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but here's the thing: she never got her title match at SummerSlam, and
Right.
she was supposed to face Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam, but because of Nia Jax injuring Bayley's shoulder, she basically missed SummerSlam, so she never got her title match. So to me, I know I'm probably going to get ripped for this from Fletch, but I think they had to do this. They had to because, like I said, she never got her chance for the title at SummerSlam, and yeah, so I mean that's how I feel, and if anybody wants to rip me on it, go right ahead. I don't care. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. What do you think, Florio?
About what? I couldn't hear because that.
About Bayley being added.
I'm okay with it. I mean, she was supposed to have the shot at SummerSlam anyway. So.
Yeah. So I don't understand why Fletch is throwing a tirade about it.
I think MF was upset because I guess she got a free title shot instead of earning it. I think that's probably the reason why.
Yeah, but I think the thing that Fletcher has to understand, like we just mentioned, she never got her chance at SummerSlam.
Right. So let's.
So if he wants to rip me on it, go right ahead. I don't care. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, technically, she kind of did already earn it. That's why they're giving her the shot now, because she couldn't take it sooner. So technically, she did earn it already. So.
Exactly, Didi.
Yes.
Exactly. You just made my point for me.
Okay. So with that being said, let's just move on. You're all caught up now, Bullet. That's where we left off. Like I said, we took a lot of time talking about Bobby Heenan, and rightfully so.
Oh, absolutely.
We went the extra mile for the brain, and rightfully so. 2-for-1 segment here. Sheamus and Cesaro. They cut a promo. They were interrupted by Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, the tag team champions, and then the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, show up. It was originally supposed to be Sheamus and Cesaro against Anderson and Gallows, but then Rollins and Ambrose came out, and then and then all six got at it, and then during the commercial break, Kurt Angle put together a triple threat match. Tag team titles not on the line. Rollins and Ambrose, Anderson and Gallows, Sheamus and Cesaro, and the winners of the match. In a minute. Okay. Winners of the match in 18 minutes and 40 seconds, approximately. It was Sheamus and Cesaro. Dean Ambrose hit a dirty deeds, I believe, on Carl Anderson, but then Sheamus, in vintage Ultimate Opportunist form, threw Ambrose out of the ring, and Sheamus and Cesaro pick up the win. 18 minutes and 40 seconds, the time of the fall. So we're gonna start up with you here. Your thoughts on this? What a match it was.
Oh yeah, this was definitely one heck of a match here, So excuse me. This to me was the fight of the night. Well, first off, the segment, I thought it was good for what it was. I mean, basically Cesaro and Sheamus basically were talking about, of course, that the fans are too caught up in the good old days, but they basically live in the now, and they destroy nostalgia acts like the Hardys, and they plan to end Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose's run and say that both of them are selfish. and that they'll win back the Raw Tag Team titles. And this prompts Ambrose and Rollins to show up, and yeah, so and then basically the Good Brothers show up, and basically we get ourselves a triple threat. And this to me was basically the fight of the night. I'm going to give it about 3.5. I'll give it 4 stars as my rating. This was very good, very very entertaining, and and definitely Cesaro and Sheamus get the victory, and you definitely want to give them some momentum without taking anything away from the champs. So yeah, so so this was definitely good. I enjoyed it. 4 stars is my rating. Dee Woodson, I give it to you.
Yeah, I'll agree. It was the match of the night. I'm going to go probably about 3.5 stars on it. But it was definitely the match of the night, because, we've been griping all these times that we get to get on here about how Raw hasn't been doing storyline building, and this was definitely one of those storyline matches. And, showing who is the better team. And, of course, Sheamus and Cesaro came out on top. But it was definitely a very good, very solid match. So not much more I have to say about it. So Florio, it's yours.
4 to 4.25 stars. This was definitely the fight of the night. 100% agree. Oh boy, a very good match that ate up a lot of television time, which seemed to be the primary goal. I was looking forward to the tag title match at No Mercy going into the match, and I'm looking forward to it even more now. I mean, with the effort that these guys put in tonight. Overall, very good and fun match, giving Cesaro and Sheamus momentum without taking anything away from the champions. I'm fine with them doing this match here. I was honestly afraid that the pay-per-view match would be turned into a triple threat. So that's really all I can say on that. So there you have it. All right, guys. You guys can relax for a little bit because we got mass cutouts coming up here. But then again, what's ridiculously Raw without cutouts, of course? Kurt Hawkins against Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews wins in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Yeah, no comment. We get a main event match on Monday Night Raw. Another loss for Hawkins. It was a match. No rating to a dud. And then we had a pre-tape segment with Michael Cole. Michael Cole with a sit-down interview with Universal Champion Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman, along with Braun Strowman. And, he talked about how Lesnar and Paul Heyman basically talked about what basically was Lesnar's mouthpiece here. And he spoke about Strowman standing up after taking the German suplex. He said that doesn't mean that Lesnar can survive suplex. Strowman can survive Suplex City. And then Heyman said Strowman woke up the beast, and now Lesnar knows it'll take more than one suplex. And Heyman said it'll be Suplex City all night long. And then Strowman said the ball is in his court, and a very good back and forth segment. So it was a good exchange. I mean, Heyman delivered his lines of praise for Strowman, but it felt like Braun should have had the last word there. It would have been cool if they had come up with a line for him that top Suplex City biatch to close. I mean, even so, they have done a terrific job of establishing Strowman as a huge threat to Lesnar, and the match feels must see. And Bullock and I, we've been gushing over Braun Strowman for how long now? Several months. So I'll say it like this, and we're going to say it again here. Bullock and I have made a decree that if Sunday night Braun Strowman wins the when Braun Strowman wins the Universal Championship, Bullock and I are going to let out the biggest roar that you've ever heard this side of the Mississippi. So get ready for that. So that was a fun segment indeed. We usually don't get into pre-tape segments, so but I definitely wanted to address that. So now we get back to the in-ring stuff, and we had Roman Reigns There was no John Cena. John Cena was not there tonight because he's doing some stuff in China for WWE. And then Roman Reigns, basically cut a promo. And I'll say it like this. It was smart to use the old Cena promo footage, but felt too little and too late. It's the only way Reigns could get one up on Cena when he wasn't there. Plus, it's not like Cena was gone for a move. He was in China for WWE. And for me, it was a very good promo. I mean, Reigns has terrific heel charisma, and it's just a shame that WWE has not pulled the trigger on it rather than playing this odd game of acting like they are a step ahead of the fans. The fact that Reigns was scripted to mock Cena for missing this show while not acknowledging that he was absent because he worked at WWE event in China the night before only makes him more of a heel to those who know the story. By the way, it would be a cool touch if Cena showed up on SmackDown tomorrow night since his character is a free agent, and it would be a wise move to give No Mercy strong hype on the Tuesday night show as well. That's all I can say on that. So for me, I could basically say this was the segment of the night, honestly. So, Michael Bullock, your thoughts on the Roman Reigns promo, and if you want to talk about that sit down with Lesnar, Heyman, Strowman, and Cole, I mean, feel free.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on a second here. Yeah. I mean this. Yeah. I mean I think you basically pretty much touched on everything when it comes to that Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar sit down. So I think I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, as far as the segment goes, I thought this was the segment of the night as well. I mean, basically, yeah, basically, obviously, Roman Reigns taking another verbal jab at John Cena to continue to build this big time fight here between Roman Reigns and John Cena. So yeah, there's really nothing more for me to say on it. So you pretty much touched on everything on it. So segment of the night. So Dee Woodson, I give it to you.
Yeah, definitely the segment of the night. Yeah, I wasn't totally surprised that he brought that footage up, but I do agree that it should have been brought up maybe sooner in this storyline than now. Yeah, he was trying to make the point that, The Rock did win that match, and now, Cena's facing a different Samoan, and he plans on repeating what The Rock did. And, most of us know, Roman and The Rock are related, and, seeing Roman pull off a repeat of what The Rock did, just for the Rock fans would probably, justify the whole thing. But at the same time, for it being the same, it was, like I said, it was segment of the night, but it should, it should have been done sooner. They should have done something maybe a little different tonight. And we still really need to work on Roman's talking skills. He brought it up tonight. I don't talk. I use my actions for my talk. And, that's all well and good. But in this business, you have to be able to talk. And I have a feeling that's the main reason we have this match, is Cena is trying to pull that out of Roman, trying to get him to be able to cut promos better than what he can do, and knows that he can do. So not much more I have to say about it. So let's just move on.
Okay. Now we're going to get into the mass cutouts here. So hang tight, you guys. We had Bray Wyatt going up against Dustin Rhodes, but it was, Dustin Rhodes is Goldust, and he came out to his real name, no face paint, but he had the Goldust outfit on anyway. But it didn't matter. Bray Wyatt won the match, 2.5 minutes. Yeah, another no rating to a dud. Um, Snoozer fight. Let's not kid ourselves. This was not good. Um, it was fun, good fire from Dustin and until could have heading into the pay per view. So, but it was still no rating to a dud. And then Finn Balor came out, he cut a promo and all that. So, yep, and then they showed and then they finally did the big tribute video for Bobby Heenan. Yeah, that was really well done. Yeah, that was a very, very, very well done video package indeed. And nothing more to say on that. I mean, you know how I am about WWE and their video packages. I mean, really, really well done. And and then we had Enzo Amore. Enzo Amore. I guess he was supposed to have a match with Neville, but or something like that. And then he does his shtick, and then Braun Strowman arrived and beat the snot out of him. And I personally found it wildly entertaining, but it did nothing to help Enzo as a contender. But I still loved it. And then Adrian Neville went up against Gran Metalik. 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Neville wins it with the Rings of Saturn submission. 2.5 stars, believe it or not. It was short, but it was really fun and had a great energy to it. And tomorrow night on 205 Live, Neville and Enzo are going to go face to face. And then we have the main event of the evening, the six-pack challenge for the number one contendership to the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. Jason Jordan, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Elias, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel. Winner of this in about 11 and a half minutes. And the number one contender, no big surprise, it was Jason Jordan. Jason Jordan wins it. And I'm trying to remember who leads off on this. I can't remember who. I don't know if it's. I think it's Didi Whitson who leads off on it. I think Bullock led off on the last relevant thing. So, Didi, let's get you. Let's get Didi Whitson in here. Didi, your thoughts on the main event? Jason Jordan, number one contender.
Well, we got out of order because Bullock wasn't here at the beginning because I did the ladies match as well. So, but it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to give this 2.5 stars to teetering close to 3. Definitely a strong match, even with The Miz getting in and interfering. We all knew it was going to happen when he came out with Dallas and Axel, which why in the heck does these guys do not have their own music? Why do they have to share music with The Miz? These guys made a point, earlier in the night, if they won, they were going to beat the crap out of Miz anyway, and here they're still hanging out with him. I don't get it, but that's just my opinion. So, you take it with a grain of salt. I don't really see why Elias was thrown in here. Yeah, he's won some matches, but some of those matches have been with interference. Really didn't see a reason for Elias being thrown into this. We all know Matt and Jeff Hardy, pretty much very, very competitive with each other. They even mentioned that in an interview earlier where Matt said that they were fighting ever since Jeff was born. And, was not surprised to see them, team together and then attack each other at the same time, but we know these two, the bond as brothers are strong. They're going to, get back into it as a team. But right now, working individually, hopefully we'll get some gold somewhere coming up soon. But out of all these guys, you all pretty much knew Jason Jordan's going to win this. He's got the most to gain out of it, especially with the storyline being, the attack on Kurt Angle, the attack on the fatherhood, and just the fact that they think Jason's being handed everything on a silver platter just because of who his dad is, which of course is not true. Even before all this came out, American Alpha was winning tag teams and winning over tag teams and getting gold and doing very well. So really, I think tonight he pretty much, at least up to that point, pretty much shut the Miz's mouth until the end when the brawl pretty much broke out and the Miz, Dallas and Axel pretty much destroyed him, and he ended with calling him, the not so nice name for the illegitimate son, and trying to say he's not worthy for what he's got. But we all know Jason is a very strong contender and everything. So not much more I have to say about it. So Floria, I'll toss it back.
Second best fight of the night, 3 to 3.25 stars is my rating for this. Nice television main event. I mean, I'll give it that. I mean, it was a very nice TV main event. Let me see. A nice television main event in terms of taking a random 6-way and making it meaningful with the Intercontinental title shot being on the line. Jordan winning felt pretty flat with the live crowd again, but it wasn't like they were rushing for the exits or anything. The illegitimate insult is so dated, but the live crowd reacted to it. So, but yeah, it was a solid match. 3 to 3.25 stars. That's the best I can go. But it was the second best fight of the night, and that's pretty much all I can say on that. So, Michael Bolick, your thoughts on the main event?
Yeah, I'll give it about 3 to 3.25 stars as well. I mean, like you said, I think this is. I think that, like I said, I think this is a typical TV quality main event, but no surprise here that Jason Jordan was going to win this and challenge The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. I mean, we knew this was going to happen, so yeah, I mean, really nothing more to say. So 3 to 3.25 stars is my rating. So let's move on to our overall thoughts on this edition of Raw.
I'll start it off. I'll probably give this about a 6 out of 10. WWE produced a decent go-home show despite not having Brock Lesnar or John Cena in the building. Fight of the night, definitely that triple threat tag team match. 4 to 4.25 stars. The 6-pack main event was the second best fight of the night. And those two matches really, really delivered in terms of Shakespearean drama in the whole 9 yards. The Roman Reigns segment was very good. That was the segment of the night. The opening segment was solid as well, and the sit down with the Michael Cole sit down with Strowman and Lesnar and Heyman. I mean, that was good too. And that's pretty much it. I mean, those are pretty much the only highlights of this show tonight. I'll even throw in that cruiserweight match, despite it being so short. I mean, it was still a solid match. So I will give it that. And then, of course, that wonderful video package of Bobby Heenan, which was really well done. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I can say on that. I mean, solid, decent, and solid go home show. Not the best, but not the worst either. So, the final, of course, we know what the final card is for No Mercy. They'll probably add a kickoff show match to this down the road. Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns against John Cena. Jason Jordan and The Miz for the Intercontinental belt. Bayley, Sasha, Nia, Emma, and Alexa for the women's title in the 5-way. Ambrose and Rollins against Cesaro and Sheamus for the tag titles. Neville and Enzo Amore for the Cruiserweight title. And Finn Balor against Bray Wyatt. They'll probably add a kickoff show match to this later in the week, I'm sure. So that's the final. That should be the final card going into No Mercy Sunday night. And whatever time is good for you guys, maybe Saturday or something. Maybe we can do a preview show on Saturday night. So we'll set that up. So 5.5 to 6 out of 10 is my rating for this show tonight. So, Michael Bullock, your thoughts on this Go Home to No Mercy edition of Raw?
Yeah, I'll give it about 5.5 out of 10 as my rating. I mean, definitely not the best show, but it was good, but not great. So yeah, so you pretty much touched on everything on tonight's show. So yeah, so 5.5 out of 10 is my rating. So Dee Woodson, I give it to you.
Yeah, I'll pretty much kind of agree with the rating. They've gotten better on the storyline building, but there's just a lot of really short matches, a few, things that really wasn't entirely relevant, but a lot of great promos. This would be a show where, you would be talking more about promos than and segments over matches. Even though I don't usually rate cruiserweights, that one was a pretty good. From what I saw of the cruiserweight match, that one was pretty good. Because unfortunately, it was on at a time when we're trying to get the girls to bed. So, but yeah, it wasn't the worst show in the world, but it was all right. Loved the stuff on Bobby Heenan, all the Twitter memories they showed, all the video package memories they showed. The fact that they just kept it fresh on everybody's mind through the show that this was a tribute to him, and just showing how much he has contributed over the years to the wrestling community, whether it was with WCW or with WWE. He's been there and has been a staple for the show for for just about forever. So like we said at the beginning of the show, sad that he had to go, but a very good tribute to him, and very glad to see that they were putting so much effort into it. So as far as doing a preview for the pay-per-view, Saturday is not good for me. So if you guys do Saturday, I will be skipping out on it. We have a pig roast with church. So other than that, hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. Depends on my work situation. So see you all later. Good night.
All right, you have a good one, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Cerebral Smack Talks. So very special Tony's Take coming up here now. We had the finals of the Mae Young Classic that went down last Tuesday night following SmackDown Live. Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler. Kairi Sane wins the Mae Young Classic in 12 minutes and 2 seconds. 3.25 stars. I mean, they worked a smart and simple match with the right person winning in a good match overall, playing off of the work of the Rips by Sane. You can argue that there were better tournament matches, and I agree, but I think this worked to get Sane over well as a resilient babyface. The main misstep for me is that if you weren't going to shoot the horsewomen angle here, then Baszler didn't need to be in the final, and you could have easily done the same style match with Jazzy Gabert. So, the overall presentation of the show was about a 7.25 to 7.5 out of 10. It was a short but good show with the right person winning. There seems to be a lot of debate over the tournament as a whole, but it opened eyes to a lot of the female talent out there not in WWE, as well as the tons of potential that WWE has under talent. So quite a few of them have actually signed a deal with the WWE. So very nice indeed. So I watched every episode, and I'm gonna tell you, every episode of the Mae Young Classic was smooth and easy to watch. I mean, it flew by like that. It really did. So well done, and upward and onward for Kairi Sane. And Kairi Sane is actually going to get a shot at the vacant NXT Women's Championship at the next Takeover show in Houston, the night before the Survivor Series. So very interesting to see what happens with that. But nonetheless, Kairi Sane wins the Mae Young Classic. She was amazing. She was so fun to watch throughout that entire tournament. So certainly did deserve every bit of that. So well done indeed. Okay. 205 Live, which they did after the Mae Young Classic, which featured something really surprising. And we'll get into that in just a moment. Rich Swann against TJP. Rich Swann wins in 12 minutes and 8 seconds. 3-star match. It was a good back and forth match with an unfortunately dead crowd. Hopefully they can move on from there. Then they had an in-ring segment with Drew Gulak, interrupted by Akira Tozawa. That's really all I can say on that. And then from there, we had and then Breezango eventually showed up, and then we had Cedric Alexander against D. Brian Kendrick. Cedric Alexander wins 3 minutes and 46 seconds via disqualification. Jack Gallagher, he showed up. We thought he was going to go after Brian Kendrick, but he attacked Cedric Alexander. Jack Gallagher has turned heel. Wow. I kind of think he needed a change, but I'm not sold on the heel turn or pairing him with Kendrick. Kendrick's angles have been a black hole on 205 Live, and Gallagher was one of the most over baby faces on the roster. We'll see how it plays out, but I do like the possibility of Gallagher and Alexander going at it. By the way, that match was no rating to a dud. Overall, 6.5 out of 10. Solid show, as it appears they're trying to mix things up, not only with Enzo in the mix, but with the Gallagher heel turn. And Swann finally moving on from DJP. Fashion Police were a fun and unexpected surprise. So that's really all I can say on that. And then tomorrow night on 205 Live, Enzo Amore and Adrian Neville will have a face-to-face confrontation before their Cruiserweight title match at No Mercy Sunday night. So that's all I can say on that. So one last piece of business, and that's Impact Wrestling. We started it off with Garza Jr. squaring off against Braxton Sutter. Garza Jr. wins the match 4 minutes and 54 seconds. 2.5 stars. Short, but really solid opener. I wish it would have gotten a bit more time, because I think it would have allowed them to work a smoother match. It wasn't even a sprint as much as it was a collection of moves with no real heat segment or chance for anyone to shine. In theory, Sutter should easily be hated for being an a-hole to Ali, but they've all but killed Ali's momentum, so who knows. Ethan Carter III defending the Impact Grand Championship against El Hijo de Fantasma. Ethan Carter III wins it via split decision. 3 stars. Fight of the night. It ended up being a good match with rounds 2 and 3 delivering a lot of high-energy action. EC3 retains, and the post-match was also good. The overall execution of the concept, however, needs refined or outright changing. LAX against OVE for the tag team titles. LAX wins the match. That's all. It was a solid fight. I guess nothing really happened with that. Grado against William Weeks. Grado wins 47 seconds. No rating. Dud. Worst fight of the night. A squash for his quote unquote final match in the U.S. And then Joseph Park showed up and said that he's going to sponsor Grado's visa, so he gets to stay. Blah blah blah. Sanjay Dutt, Trevor Lee, Falls Count Anywhere match for the X Division Championship. Winner and new X Division champion Trevor Lee wins it 14 minutes and 14 seconds. 2 3/4 stars. The Conley stuff was fun as it played into the stipulation, but overall I found the match to be lacking. Stipulation was solidly used, but the work felt low key and there was no real highs or lows. Pretty much no drama. Hopefully Lee as champion brings something new, because while the division has been fine as of late, it still feels as if it's missing something. Taya Valkyrie, or as MF calls her, Talia Vicarine, making her in-ring debut. Squashes Amber Nova in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Short, simple, effective squash. And then the main event, Johnny Impact, low-key, #1 contenders match for the title. Johnny Impact wins in 11 minutes and 55 seconds. 2 3/4 stars. Pretty good main event, but also a bit disappointing because both men are capable of so much more. So Johnny Impact gets the title shot, and then this mess of a segment, Bobby Lashley saying he's going back to MMA with the American Top Team and all that good stuff. Horrible angle to close the show. Bringing in Lashley's legit MMA team should add to his badass aura, but it's only taken away because no one cares. It was a last and bad brawl with no heat. Fans looking visibly bored as these guys brawled right in front of them, and just bad choices from the guys and the bookers. This should have been a short, high-energy, all-out fight. No wrestling moves, send out security and some Gestapo security guards to separate them, and close it out with the Riot Squad holding the two sides apart. And instead, we got what we got, and it was terrible. 6 out of 10. I like the previous week's show better, but this week's show was a solid but disappointing effort. The card looked really strong, but the matches never really got to the next level. There wasn't a bad match. The squashes were fine, but I feel that Key and Impact and Lee and Dutt underperformed. Add on the horrible main event segment, and the show came across as average at best. Like many weeks, GFW has parts of a possibly great show on their hands, but are still looking to put that elusive great show together. It's a fine show, but it was just missing that sizzle, if I'm being real honest. So 6 out of 10 for that. And now let's get into what we can expect on the next show, which will be Thursday night. I guess this is their Victory Road show. So bear with me for a moment while I get that information. All right. Trevor Lee defended the X Division title against Petey Williams. I guess. All right. Just trying to find this. Okay. I do apologize. I had the wrong match. Desmond Xavier went up against Trevor Lee, Petey Williams, Matt Sydal, Sanjay Dutt, and Garza Jr. in a 6-way match. A Laurel Van Ness segment. Congo Kong against Mahabali Shera. Talia Vicarine against Ava Story. El Hijo del Fantasma and Pagano against Eddie Edwards and Ethan Carter III. Johnny Impact calls out Eli Drake to set up their title match. And then Johnny Impact went up against KM. So that's basically what we're going to have on Thursday night. So I'll put the bow on this very emotionally charged edition of Ridiculously Raw. I want to thank you also very much for tuning in. Michael Bullock, come on in. I want you to start with the shout outs, and then I'll set up the future content. So it's all yours.
All right, of course. So of course, we want to thank you all so very much for tuning in for this emotionally charged edition of Ridiculously Raw. Of course, shout outs to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who support our shows, whether it's this or the Cerebral Smack Talk or Strictly Sports College Football Thursday and NFL Friday. Of course, shout outs to all of our super fans out there. You guys know who you are. To all of our friends from our high school days, you guys know who you are. Of course, to Michael Fletcher, who couldn't be with us tonight. So yeah, so until so that's it. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, this is the Phenom Mike Bullock saying thank you all so very much for tuning in. And of course, you know the routine. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everybody. And like that picture right there, Bobby Heenan, wherever you are, my friend, Godspeed. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the inspiration. And thank you for Bobby Heenan. Rest in peace, Bobby Heenan. We'll miss you. Floria, what's yours?
Well said, Bullock. Well said. Special shout out to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there. Continue to make our shows as over as they are. We appreciate it as always. You are the best fans in the world. Special shout out to Dee Dee Woodson, Kevin Woodson, and the Woodson family. Matt Ward, Jason Hickson-Ball, Daniel Luttrell from the UK. Our other First Ladies, Kaiser Butler, Megan Silva, and Lexi Calloway. The crew members, Tommy Souza, Eric Carrier. Very special shout out to Jimmy Alden, who was a big hit last Friday night when he joined me and MF for our Triple G and Canelo Alvarez preview show. We did a wonderful job with that. And we definitely hope to have him on again in the future. And then also Al Bradison and Rob Parsons. And of course, last but not least, the man who puts it all together, the hardcore pipe bomb himself, Falcon Striker 445, Derek Ferreira. And that's it. So tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, immediately following SmackDown Live, we will have the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, Grace Fan 95. MF will pay his respects to Bobby the Brain Heenan, and maybe we'll share some more Bobby stories with him. And then we'll review SmackDown Live, the latest on the Kevin Owens situation, and of course the U.S. title match with AJ Styles and Baron Corbin. And maybe a Mikey's Mindset with some Lucha Underground, ROH, RWA, I don't know. And then Thursday night, College Football Thursday, Friday, NFL Friday, and I'm looking to do a No Mercy preview show, maybe Saturday night, maybe Bullock and I or MF can set that up down the road. So yeah, and then the recap Sunday night. So all right, that'll do it. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, it's Anthony Florio here for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, good old MF, Michael Fletcher, Dee Dee Woodson, and Derek Ferreira. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Tuesday. And until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching Ridiculously Raw right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube.com. And remember, no matter what anyone tells you, wrestling, no matter what anyone tells you, wrestling is indeed actually real. And as you can see by my screenshot, it doesn't get any more real than what I had there. And before we wrap up, we definitely want to send, once again, our thoughts and condolences and prayers to the family and friends and colleagues of Bobby the Brain Heenan, who passed away on Sunday night. And close to home for me, but, you know, it is what it is. And he will surely be missed. And we'll have some more on that tomorrow night. So, and like Bullock said, thank you for the memories. Thank you for the inspiration. And thank you for Bobby. Good night, everybody.